Hey everybody, this is Joel. I'm hanging out in my hot pink bedroom with the big black polka dots, and we're here for the weekly update for the Dryden experiment. It is August the 8th right now, and this light is right in my face. And with us today we have Eugene Kelly III and Tracy Vincent, and we've got a pretty good list of things that are going on, so let's jump right in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the science fiction universe, and then I'm going to go to the Steam universe, the Apocalypse universe, Dryden Nightmare, and then just sort of general business questions and so on and so forth. So let's start with sci-fi. The big news going on in sci-fi right now is that Big Damn Dryden, which is the role-playing game that's being built by Owlman Comics, is getting very close to ready for production work, which is different than ready for your release date. But with a role-playing game, you have to make sure that the game is actually playable and works before you can start working on the layout for your book and everything. We've had 2 successful play tests in Australia at this point. We've had a playtest in Manhattan, Kansas, and we're going to have another one in Manhattan tomorrow. That's very exciting. I'll be participating via Google Hangout with that group while they playtest again tomorrow. We had a lot of rule improvements that came around from the first set of playtests, but only a couple that came from the second. And Nick, who is the owner of Owlman, is pretty good about putting people through their paces. He experimented with some ship-to-ship combat and some advanced skins and paths for characters as they develop to sort of let them level up. All very good stuff. We've got a whole lot of production questions hanging around out there. The thing I continue to look for, and I would love for somebody to send me an email about this, is a couple of character sketches. We have some NPCs that we have done the paper description of, and we could use some images. I don't pay very well, let's be straight up about that, but we'll credit you in the book, and you can maybe get a little bit of fame out of it and tell all your friends how cool you are. I am drydenexperiment@yahoo.com. That's DrydenExperiment at Yahoo. And if you'd like to do a couple of just sketches for you, I can get you descriptions of the characters and let you build something. Then the other project, we've got 2 people here who are part of the Rise of the European. Eugene or Tracy, you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Rise of the European?
Okay, you can go first.
Okay. I'll just say, I mean, I've done a little bit of writing for it. I really the last day or so I've really been inspired by this other story I'm writing, but it's kind I think it's been coming along quite well. I think I'm gonna when I write it, because we had the idea of maybe splitting it up into having different parts of it, different portions in the book, that I might sort of write it along those lines. So then, like, section, then I'll just jump to something else, then I'll just jump to something else.
Okay.
And so I think that that's the way that I'm going to have it structured.
Okay, very good, very good. And just by way of a sort of a general introduction, in 2600 in the science fiction universe, the European, which is the organism that lives on the bottom of the ocean of Europa, gets tired of the humans and throws them off. And what we're getting is a series of short stories, most of them told from the humans' perspective, but one of them, the one Eugene has written, told from the Europeans' perspective about the battle that breaks out when the European decides that it's had enough of the humans. Tracy, you want to get in a little more about what's going on with Rise of the European?
Well, people that aren't here, we have Dan Hunt, who has already completed his story, who's writing sort of noir-esque pre-battle story, kind of setting up the story. And then we have, if we're going to go from pre-down, we have Dawn Van Ostall, who is writing about basically the catalyst. It's not the sole reason why the European is deciding that humans need to go, but it's like the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back.
Right, a very big, scary camel with lots of tentacles.
Yeah, and dripping saliva off its teeth and stuff. And then you have Um, you have Kitty, who is it Kitty Sarkozy. She's writing about just the average man who just so happens to be getting a break in life, and then all kinds breaks loose. And it's his fight for survival and trying to get out. And then we come to Damien Roach's story, and his is mostly on the surface, and his is from the Marine perspective, trying to save everyone. And so there's his perspective, and then I bring up the rare, and my story is I'm not even on Europa.
Mm-hmm.
My story takes place on a different planet called Aurelia, and my character is called Insane by all her friends because she hears this voice in her head, and this voice in her head is actually the European itself. Unbeknownst to her, it's communicating with life on Aurelia that the European has actually sent out into space to try to see if there's any habitable places for it to live on if need be, much before humans even got on Europa to begin with. And so as things are going haywire on Europa, Sadie starts getting a lot of visions, and it's a fight for survival of the whole planet for her.
Very good, very good. And we do not have a production date for that book yet, but it is a 2015 date, maybe in late October or November. We expect to see first draft of the whole story at the 1st of September, and after we get some insight into how much work we have to get it ready for production, we'll make a decision at that point about when we think we'll produce it. But we do think that we'll be releasing it in 2015, as with Big Damn Dryden, obviously. Then the next thing going on in the sci-fi universe, if you have not read A Matter of Trust by Greta Van der Rohe, she took a book that she had previously released, 2 of them now, and released them in the Dryden sci-fi universe, but further in the future, 20,000 years out in the future. I read A Matter of Trust this week. I enjoyed it. There seems to be this great debate going on in Dryden about how we feel about romance. Some of us are pretty big romance fans, and some of us are pretty big not romance fans. And I have to say that coming from the not romance side, there were romantic elements in that book, but I would never discourage someone from reading it because of the romantic elements. It was not the sort of Harlequin dime store romance novel. It was a sci-fi adventure story set in space with adventure and so on and so forth, and all the elements of sci-fi, just with some romantic elements, and it really didn't turn me off at all. So I want to recommend it. It's available on Kindle, and I don't know, Tracy, do you know if it's available in other EPUB formats? I know I got a copy off of Amazon.
I don't know, to be honest. I don't think so. I think
Okay.
it's only available on Amazon. But I mean, Greta is more than welcome to correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. So definitely you can get a copy on Amazon, and there's a side story called The Demon's Eye, which was the first that she published with us. That's also available on Amazon, and I enjoyed that one very much as well. I think that sci-fi romance has got a lot more promise to it than I would have thought before I'd actually read it. So I guess maybe I need to now apologize to all sci-fi romance fans around the world. Moving right along. Then I heard from Dan Hunt this week. He's the author of Eclipsing of Cyrus C, which is set in the Primer. It is a story about soldiers, a female soldier, and she gets distracted from the war that she's a part of by some interesting other adventures. I don't want to give any spoilers there. A very enjoyable story. I've had the opportunity to read it all the way through. And he thinks that he is maybe about 2 months from his publication date, which would put him maybe around the 1st of October. He is publishing on his own. He's not publishing through Dryden House, so we don't have any control over that at all. He's doing some kind of cool things. He wants T-shirts with his book cover on them, and so he's making them. More power to him. And we're having kind of an interesting conversation about how to promote Dryden in general with him. So definitely look forward to Eclipsing Cyrus B. And Alder's World Part 2, which is the one that I am writing, will come out in 2015. I don't have a date because I keep not writing it. That's not true. I'm about halfway through with the initial draft. Well, I'm more than halfway through the initial draft, but there's a lot of work after I finish that. So, but I do still have a 2015 date in my head. I just don't know which one. Not tomorrow. And Alder's World Part 1 is currently available on Amazon. It's not available on EPUB until about the second week of August, which is only a week from now. And then we'll be moving it over to Smashwords, and it'll be available on Kindle and Kobo and everybody else in the whole world, and that'll be very nice. And that's everything that I have in sci-fi. Have I missed anybody in sci-fi this week?
Not that I know of.
Awesome. Okay. Then I'm going to move on to Dryden Steam, which is our steampunk genre. The interesting thing that happened this week is that Anya Bogus, who is a German author who has 7 books in the Etherhertz series, would like to release those books under the Creative Commons license through Dryden House. And we've talked back and forth and how to do the translating and so on and so forth. She sent us notice this week that she's got 2 translators in Germany, or at least who speak German, working on that translation now. I saw the original draft or the first draft of chapters 1 and 2 today. I haven't read them yet.
I did.
But, okay, are we in good shape? How does it look?
It looks good. I am enjoying it. I'm already plotting what's going on.
Awesome. And the exciting thing is that book continues on. That story continues on for 7 books and is really, really involved and establishes a whole lot of universe background for us in the Dryden Steam universe. So really exciting. We continue to work with Mikey Vessa on her art and the stories that I'm writing behind that art. And the 2 of them together, I think, are going to put Steam on a really solid foundation for really great growth. We've also had some participation. I'm going to butcher Steven's last name. Hauser. Another artist from Germany, Steven, who's providing some work. Tracy, you going to offer a try on the last name?
Let me look at it.
Okay.
I got to get a look at it before I even try.
Sure. So he continues to sort of contribute some art from the side. He's an independent artist and is a very, very busy man, but he's obviously very interested in the project, which is cool. So then let's go ahead and talk.
Holzhauer.
Say it again.
Holzhauer.
Okay.
Holzhauer.
Stephen Holzhauer. So we're excited to have Stephen's participation and look forward to more cool things there. Then our next genre that we're going to hit is Dryden APOC. And Tracy, you want to talk about the exciting things that are going on? We got Wednesday is a big day for Dryden APOC.
Wednesday is a very big day for Dryden APOC, and be sure you point to the bottom because you need to put the Google Docs thing down there. We are 4 days away from releasing our ARCs to our reviewers, and I just want to remind people that you don't have to have a blog in order to get an ARC from us. All you need is to have some sort of social network. I will make sure that there's HTML ready for everyone, so get it, and because it will be due to be reviewed on Goodreads and a retailer of your choice by August 20th. Actually, on August 20th, because Amazon won't let you review it before it comes live, and it goes live August 20th. Laura Conrad.
Lorelei, you'll never die.
Lorelei, you'll never die.
Laura, go ahead.
It's got a little bit of everything. It's got badassery in it. Can I even say that?
Sure.
Okay. It has that in it. It it's got vigilantism in it. It has a wee tiny, tiny, and I mean tiny, minuscule bit of romance. It's got not much romance, so even the hardcore non-romance liker will still like the book.
It's got Terminator movie style romance. If you remember the
Kind
romantic
of,
relationship
yeah.
from the Terminator movies.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Action movie romance. The romance in no way disturbs the action.
No, not at all. But it's a really, really good book, and I'm really excited. I feel like a proud papa here.
Right
You
on.
know,
Yeah.
I have no clue how excited Laura is. I'm sure she's like 50 times more excited than I am, and that's fit to be bursting.
Laura first published with us in a series of short stories called Sky Goddesses of Dryden. She wrote the stories, and uh, uh, Danny
Everett.
did the art for us, and it was a really exciting short story collection, and it's still available both in EPUB and print. We're really, really excited to have Laura come back. This is an interesting sort of hybrid story. It's actually a short story collection, but they're on a theme, and so they tell a story with a little bit of a non-conventional narrative, and we're really excited to get that into the market and get people to look at it, because she's a fabulous writer, and we plan on working with her a lot. So Lorelei, You'll Never Die, you can still get access to the pre-release copy, and then we're going to have a release date on the 20th, so woo, here we go.
As of right now, you can pre-order it on Smashwords and Kobo and iTunes. And
Very
you can
good.
access those through the Goodreads link.
Well, why don't we put that down below?
Oh, then we need to put that down below.
Let's put the Goodreads link down below.
Yep, you still can't get it on Barnes & Noble or on Amazon, but that's all right.
Right, and you won't be able to get it on Amazon, but you will probably be able to get it on Barnes & Noble if they ever get their heads out of their butts.
Why wouldn't you be able to get it on Amazon?
Amazon is very fussy about pre-release of things that weren't created by Amazon. There's this kind of ninja trick you have to do it, and it involves being involved in Amazon's fulfillment program, which is on our to-do list but hasn't happened yet. So eventually we'll be able to offer Amazon pre-release, but not yet.
Well, will the book eventually be on Amazon?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
It will release on
Yes.
Amazon on August
On the
20th, just
yeah.
like all the others. The pre-release, there's a pre-release price we've set for it, which is a lot lower. So, we've not been advertising that you can get it for pre-release because it's not available everywhere, but you can get it. If people want to get it at a lower cost, they can go to Smashwords because they can get it on an EPUB or on a Mobi, which Mobi works for Amazon Kindle, and they can get it for a whole 99 cents.
Right.
And they will receive their copy on August 20th. But if they want to go through Amazon, they'll have to wait until it releases.
Right, and we'll probably hold that 99-cent price for like a week, just like a way of apologizing to people who are getting it off of Amazon.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Amazon and Barnes & Noble, since they're not working very well with this at this moment, will probably hold the 99-cent price over. Also, too, while we are having that on sale, we're also going to be putting Sky Goddesses of Dryden on sale, too.
Right. On sale, too, yeah.
During the first week, you will be able to get Sky Goddesses of Dryden at a discounted rate as well. So,
right on. Exactly. All right, and now for the big drum roll, the exciting thing that happened this week. We started Dryden Nightmare.
Yes.
All right. So, as everybody knows who's participated, we started with a science fiction universe, and we're having great fun with that science fiction universe, but there are a lot of authors out there that like to write other stuff. And so we wanted to expand into other universes kind of on the same basic model. We're going to set some foundation rules for the universe and then invite people to come in and participate in a Creative Commons way. And Eugene and Damian Roach both approached us at a meeting 2 weeks ago now and said, We want to do the nightmare, or we want to do the horror, and they wouldn't let me name it Dryden Jamie in honor of Jamie Lee Curtis, so we settled for Dryden Nightmare. But what I want to do is turn the conversation over to Eugene and let Eugene sort of explain the concept about how we interrelate different styles of horror into a single horror universe, because literally he wrote it. So, Eugene, you want to give us a little bit of an introduction to what's going on with Dryden Nightmare?
Okay. Well, Dry Nightmare is tangentially connected to an aspect of the sci-fi, at least initially, because there's a period called the Dark, where there's the galaxy collapses in chaos. There are monsters, and some of the powers that rise up in this period. I mean, they've always been involved in this, but they've been on sort of the fringes of black society. But they begin to they believe in all these strange gods and intergalactic monsters, and they begin to pull those out into the sci-fi universe. Now that's only now that's where I kind of got the idea for it. But the how it got into Dryden. But initially, long before I came to Dryden, I had this idea of a multiverse, which was I refer to it as the vein. Now, the veins refer to basically you have these interdimensional portals or connections which connect multiple, just billions upon billions of different universes. Um, and some of them are very similar to ours. Some of them are radically, radically different. Um, some of them are. Hey, Don.
Hey,
Right.
Don.
Hey, Don.
Go ahead, Eugene.
Some of them are radically different. Some of them, a lot of them are very strange, very creepy. And a major aspect of this is that within this universe, basically at the core, at basically kind of the center of the veins is you have this Earth, which I don't know what I'm exactly going to call it, this planet, where it is straddled on both sides by these kind of twin trees. These, I mean, fantastically humongous trees. On one side, you have what is basically a tree that's sort of sitting in the middle of this really dark woods, and at its base, inside its trunk, is a sorry for the background. Is a sort of a dark flame rising up. And on the other side of the planet, there is another twin tree, which is surrounded by all sorts of weird cities. And beyond that, there's a huge, I mean, absolutely colossal wall. And it's and there's cities beyond that as well. But these trees, the branches from these trees go out and form the beginnings of these links between all these different universes. And these trees, within the tree themselves, in the branches, they carry some type of poison, which the poison goes to other universes and poisons those universes as well. To various degrees, it has different effects. Sometimes this leads to very strange, very scarred worlds, very scarred universes where lots of strange stuff happens. There are lots of these kind of strange, dark gods and monsters and stuff which with incredible powers that interact. Other places, it's a very, very thin, tenuous connection, so it's far more like our world. And if any of these other creatures are there, they're basically in myths. They're myths, stories. Very few people believe they exist, and there's not much way that they could actually break through. Now, obviously, some in the future could change that, but as the moment, there are going to be some worlds which probably just be pretty much like our world. And that's sort of the foundation of it. I'm working on I actually work on several stories concerning this. One of them is a story which initially was going to form around the founder of the original Achaemenid dynasty in Persia, who would go on an adventure throughout one of these weird worlds. Now, for the way it's shaping up to be, it looks, my idea in my head, it looks a little too much like the video game Prince of Persia. So, I mean, I might have to change that around a little bit. But that's sort of a story that's been germinating for a while. Then there's another story, there's a poem I'm working on, which is, I'm not very good at poetry, so it's a very hard slog. I'm going through about this other creature that lives in one of these worlds. But the one main story I'm focusing on right now, which hopefully I'll be done in about a day or so, is a short story dealing with a this being. His name is Otoyunga. No, Otoyanzu. And he is sort of this shaman character, but he's also got other powers as well. And it's sort of his introduction. In this universe, people have known about him for a long time. Sort of his introduction to the readers and what he's capable of and what he's about. Um, After that, I'm going to have another story focusing on another being, which I mentioned. If you go onto the Dryden Nightmare group, I've got a document up which basically explains sort of the framework of this universe. So I've got one story being written right now. The second one, which I've started writing, but I say I'm not very good. I don't know how good I am at poetry, so it's kind of stalled at the moment. And then I've got a third story, which I'm going to jump into right away once I'm done with this first story. And then also there's another one. There's a story I wrote about 2 years ago, which I submitted to publication 2 places. One of them it refused. Another one I haven't heard quite back yet. I'll check in with that. I sent it to Tracy and Joel. They seem to like it. At least I think Joel. I don't know if Tracy's read it yet. But
Yeah, I read it.
oh, you have? Okay, good.
Yeah,
So
I enjoyed it. It was scary.
oh, okay, thank you. Um,
That's why I said in the email you give me night.
oh,
I don't know if I
okay.
can edit you because you'll probably give me nightmares.
So, in addition to, and let me say first of all, I just have the coolest job in the whole world. You know, Eugene starts going, so the foundation of the Earth is this planet with these two dark trees around it, and pictures start forming in my head, and I'm like, the whole point of the Dryden experiment was I wanted to live in universes bigger than I could ever imagine. I wanted to be able to storytell with the power of all these other people, and the things that go on in Eugene's head are just amazing, and I get lost in them. So let me just comment that what really enjoyable. It's exactly the point of the Dryden experiment is to get access to that kind of cool shit that lives in other people's heads. So the idea, though, when we start talking about how to use it as a Creative Commons universe, is that anybody who's writing horror can come in and bring it to the Dryden experiment, Dryden Nightmare, and I will put the link below. I did the link hand gesture a minute ago. And as long as you're willing to put it under the Creative Commons, you'll fit in with the model. But ideally, or I guess not ideally, but what Eugene has done is he's set up this sort of infinite set of planes, this infinite set of universes. So whatever you're writing, if it doesn't appear to be linked to dark gods and it doesn't appear to be linked to the twisted poison that's polluting the multiverse, that's just because your particular plane is relatively discrete and not terribly poisoned, whereas the one that Eugene was writing in that I read, there's a portal. It's right there. There's this gaping maw on the surface of the planet, and thunderstorms around it, and it warps reality, and it's very wonderful. And Eugene's obviously done a lot of very scary drugs at some point because, wow, I don't know. Anyway, but it's really obvious that this world has been twisted by its proximity to the great trees that live at the heart of the universe. But yours as an outside author coming in doesn't have to be. You can be writing whatever you're writing. Some of the cool ideas that have come out of it. Man, I'm so terrible with names. Damien.
And Damien. Which
Eugene
one?
Damien is writing this story where the guy finds a book where a guy who doesn't live in a weird world, just lives in our world, finds a book that his father was writing and decides to try and finish it. Well, as he starts finishing it, he realizes that he's opening one of these portals and he can't stop. The more he tries to stop, the more twisted it becomes and the scarier it becomes. And then he also approached us today with the idea of sort of a gothic western where these demonic powers have infiltrated the West. And the opening scene, I haven't read the opening scene yet, but apparently this wizard character wanders wanders into a tavern in the Old West, and there's a gunslinger in there, and the two of them get in a fight, and I'm like, I need to read that. I just see the dark wizard with the evil incantations on the hem of his clothes glowing purple versus the gunslinger. I need that. The universe as a whole, the real one, needs that. So I really want to praise Eugene and Damien for stepping forward and being interested in this and helping develop, the idea behind Dryden is to empower people and to give them the place where they can work without the overhead burden of totally useless publishing corporations. And it's so exciting to see something like this come alive. We've had some really fantastic conversations and emails today, and already just this wealth of stuff is rising up out of this well. So wonderful. Eugene, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about while we're getting her launched and getting her started?
Well, there's one tiny thing I'd like to say about the mythos, and then there's one thing sort of in general.
Okay, go for it.
I want to say a few things. One thing, you mentioned about the trees. Obviously, there are two trees, the largest ones. The way they connect, now, I mentioned, you see the portal in that one story. That's one where I told you there are multiple ways of going from universe to universe. You'll see some things where a person might just walk. He literally just might walk from one to the other. There might be very little change. Other ways, it's to completely cut off. But one thing is that the way this poison gets from place to place is that every universe, there's a planet there which has not every planet inside the universe, but there's a planet inside every universe which has two trees of its own. Now, none of these trees are as big as the original ones. And for the ones especially where it's just kind of a normal universe, they might be just like little things shooting out of the ground. Also, because it's kind of a flipped universe, it's kind of like a little bit of an alternate dimension thing. Like in one of these universes that are not very poisoned, you wouldn't just walk down the street and see it. You kind of have to do some weird stuff, maybe a ritual or something to see it. But there would be trees on other universes. Some of them might be double trees. Some of them might be just a single. Some of them are really big. Some of them are really small. But none of them are quite as elaborate as the first one. Second of all, I sent this in the email about Damien's Western. I don't know if the story's going to pan out. I don't know what the elements are going to be. But I did. There's some things I noticed. So one thing is it takes place in the West, and I had this idea of a lot of my cultures that I'm gonna, at least so far, there's gonna be more in the future, are gonna be kind of desert-based. You'll see, obviously, there's that one you see I met in that one story where it didn't talk much about culture. This one I'm writing. Is for the story I'm writing right now, it is sort of almost like a Mesopotamian type culture. It's sort of this biblical kind of kingdom confederation place. Also, I'm going to be inspired partially by people living in the Sahara and the Sahelic regions, but also the sort of southwestern U.S. with the Navajo and various peoples there. And so, if depending on where this Western takes place, some of that I could take some of that from Damien's story and work into mine, especially if you have some of these, maybe you have like a Navajo shaman who has ties to these other worlds. Again, I'd have to look at the story myself. Also, one thing I looked up is kind of interesting, which I definitely want to somehow work into, is that more and more they're discovering that there's this family of languages which the Navajo language belongs to, super family. There's groups in the Southwest. There's also a huge stretch of it stretching all the way from Alaska to Canada. But there are also similar families of languages in like Central Russia. So it's not quite 100% sure if this is accurate, but if it's true, that means that there are people with languages and customs in Central Russia who are related to people in Navajo. It's right north of Mongolia, now tied to like Genghis Khan type stuff. So that's something that I might want to be working as well.
The Proto-Indus language stretches all the way from India to Northern Europe.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. That's something I want to work in as well. Also, I'm writing these short stories right now, and I know Damien's his Western story. I think it looks like it's kind of like a novel. The other story that he's writing, I think, is a short story though. From what I've seen, maybe I'm wrong.
His Western is going to be a serial. So it's
Right.
going to be a series of short stories.
He's talking about the book about the book.
So the
Yes.
book about the book will be a novel, I think.
Oh, okay, okay.
You
Well,
know, Damien has identified it as a short story, but it's one of those that by the time he fully develops it, we're going to kind of wait and see what he actually produces, because that's a big, interesting story, and it's really going to be a measure of his interest how big it ends up being.
all
Right.
right. Well, one thing I was thinking, I'm actually reading a book, a collection of stories called Blackburnt Sun, which is again it's very similar to this sort of collection of sort of weird fiction stories, horror stories, and there are several kind of shorter stories throughout the book, and then I think there's one at the end, the title story called Blackburn Sun. Um, and it's I was thinking I have to talk to Damien about this. I don't know if you'd be willing to write you or Tracy or Don would be willing to write a horror short story or two in this universe as well. Maybe put depending again on how long these like Damien stories, put them together into a sort of a collaboration collection novel with
Absolutely.
Damien's story. Depending how long it is, it could be sort of the star story. It could be the one maybe that the book is named after. But then there'd be these other stories as well. It could be kind of the one at the end, kind of the final big story, and then all these other stories in there, kind of fleshing out the universe as well. That was an idea that came into my head.
Let's do this, Eugene. You guys are really hot and you're really on a roll, and I'm excited about it. And I would absolutely contribute a short story for you if that's the direction we ended up going. Let's sort of use Rise of the European as a test for this idea of collaboration stories,
Sure.
and let us get a little closer to production for that and see how we feel about it and what lessons we can learn from it, and then come back and address horror. We're also always open to new authors, and maybe by that time we'd have some other authors who've sort of said, hey man, this collaborative horror stuff is cool, and this universe is interesting and weird. I want to work in it. So let's let's not lose our momentum, obviously, but also pace ourselves just a little bit and sort out a little better where we are. There's a whole lot of creative impulse going on around Nightmare, and I'd like to understand it better, and then absolutely we'll talk about bringing a book out of it, and a short story collaboration may very well be a great way to do that.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, I see what you're saying about Rise of the Rope. And also, I noticed on the Dryden Nightmare site, I mean, there's sort of you, me, Tracy, and Damien. We've been the guys who've been talking about it most, but there are 25 people in it. And I don't know if any of those 25 people would be willing to contribute anything as well.
What we'll do, the sort of the traditional way that we've drawn attention is once we've got some content in a universe, we go out to the Facebook community as a whole and start talking about Creative Commons and how awesome Creative Commons is. And if you're a horror author who would like to get involved, or a steampunk author who would like to get involved, or whatever we're promoting, join the group and get in touch. And I believe you'll find that all of you except Tracy started that way. Are folks that we found that way, and I'm sort of holding a little bit on Nightmare. I shouldn't even say holding. We started this week. I haven't got there yet, but I'm also busy with home stuff this week. But absolutely, we'll go back and approach those people that you see in Nightmare right now, or other authors and people that I know that I invited to the group, and I don't know that any of them will ever participate. But like I added Gavin because he's our artistic director, so he needs to be there, and Dan Hunt is involved in everything we do, so I brought him in. Although he's never written anything but sci-fi for us. But we'll go out to DeviantArt, where I think we'll have a lot of success, and start looking for other talent to participate. It's the way that we grow, and it's been very successful for us thus far. It hasn't happened for Nightmare yet, but it will. And before we get into some just sort of general chat about things, Dryden, stop with Don and say, Don, how are you?
All right.
Very good. And Don is participating in Rise of the European and has done some art and some other work for some of the other universes. Why don't you talk about what's been going on in your week this week, Don?
Well, I've been working on my story for Rise of the European. I think you saw the art I released of some of the creatures that I pictured there
Yep, yep.
on the Dryden fans. And then I've got uh, I've got to track Nick down and see where we're at on releasing the. Of course, that's not Dryden, I guess. On releasing the what he called the
The
big damn
compendium.
sci-fi game.
Yeah, big damn sci-fi. You're right.
Yeah. And then I am starting to see if I can round up a group to do a demo of the beta test for the big damn Dryden.
Awesome, wonderful. We'd love to have you. We'll get all the materials you need. Just let us know.
Yeah, I've got. He sent me a link the other day to the 3 point something beta version. So
Okay. Well, I've got all of that stuff. So we'll hook you up with rule sets and player character sheets and anything that you need to make that happen. So that would be really awesome if that happened.
all right, yeah, I want to do it somewhere public so we can get the exposure, and I'm
Right.
trying to track down like a restaurant with a good table or something like that on a weekday
Yeah. Right. Right.
afternoon.
Right. Wonderful. We have playtest modules available as well. So we'll send you a scenario that you can play. It's awesome. And then
Oh,
anybody
that would be awesome.
yeah, yeah. The first one you have to rescue the dog. Uh, but and then of course anybody that play tests, we're going to have a thank you page, and I think we'll put it right up at the front. I saw a game that right up in the front with the design credits were beta testers, because in the end beta testers are designers too. The game that we played in Manhattan last Wednesday resulted in a whole set of rule changes, and that's because players were playing and going, well, what if we did, and what if we did, and so we will definitely credit everybody that participates. So just let me know how I can support you in that, because I'm totally behind that idea.
All right.
All right.
And
go ahead.
I was going to say the one other thing I was thinking of, where I've got the idea for the steampunk story.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might do that as a strip.
Oh, all right.
Like a weekly comic strip.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Okay, so that's everything about genres and what's going on in all of the universes. I just wanted to talk just a little bit about outside of the universe, and mostly just reiterate some things about how we work. We're a Creative Commons universes now, and nobody owns those universes. We've agreed to place our material under Creative Commons 3.0, or I guess I should say, or 4.0. I guess I should say everybody owns. Because everybody owns the pieces that they create. But they've agreed to allow other people to share them, so the sort of amalgamated universe, if we tried to pick out what it was in the sci-fi universe that I built versus what Damien built versus what Dan built, we'd never get it all sorted out, right? Because we have all agreed to share under the BYSA 4.0. And that gives us just this incredible flexibility and this incredible ability to develop in huge environments that are just a lot of fun to play in. I commented before, I want to get into Eugene's Nightmare. Please let me into Eugene's Nightmare. That's just great fun for me. And I'll write stories in that, and I'll have a blast doing it. But when we come to then the production of books and the production of material and the posting of material, we are equally wide open. Tracy and I are 2/3 of Dryden House, which is a publishing company, but we function as a service for people who are writing in Dryden. If you want to publish your own web strip, for example, as Dawn is talking about, or Dan publishes his own books, Greta publishes her own books, the second half of the trick to what we do is that we agree to cross-promote each other. And whether you put your book out through us or not, we are going to support it. We're going to get behind it. The sort of ARC stuff that Tracy's doing and some of the fancier stuff, we can't really do for books that we didn't write because we don't know the release dates and we don't have control over those books. But in terms of getting stuff on websites, getting stuff in front of people at conventions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it doesn't matter where it came from. It matters that it's Dryden, and we're going to support. So I just wanted to be sure and make that a part of the conversation. That's one of the pieces that we need to repeat every day. We share not just our creative abilities, but also our promotional abilities. So having said that, we got a couple of things coming up that I'm pretty excited about. We are in conversations with Dan Hunt about promotion packages. He has this idea that he wants to build kits, and he wants to send those kits out to independent comic book stores, and I'm not sure where all he wants to go, and it is not at all decided, but we're very excited about it, and as we get forward and we know more about it, we want to know what it is that you've got out there that we didn't produce, so that we can help get them into Dan's kits and press releases or anything like that. So please keep us posted on what you're doing and where you're going. We want to support you. The other thing is we continue to work towards that September date in Atlanta. Kitty Sarkozy is going to have a suite at Dragon Con, and we're putting together materials. I think we're going to do postcards and posters, and there will be alcohol, of course, to help make everybody feel better about Dryden, at least until the next morning. And so if you are doing things or have things that you would like to have included or sent along in the care package, we're, of course, limited in terms of the scope of things we can do. There will be no life-size cutout of Don Van Osdal at Dragon Con. I'm sorry, Don. We looked at the budget. We just couldn't make it work. But we definitely want to know what you've got in production.
Better go on a diet.
It was, yeah.
Make it smaller next year.
That's right. We needed somebody who was at least 6'1". I have no idea how tall you actually are, Don. You look like you're about this big. But anyway, we want to know where you are, and if you have materials that you'd like to contribute or things that you'd like to contribute. If you'd like to make a material contribution, help Kitty buy pretzels or something like that, let us know. We're going to try to make that as big a deal as we can. It's happening in September. I don't actually know what the day of the con is. I think it's the 8th I have in my head. But we've got some very cool things. Then looking inside of Dryden House, the publishing ourselves, Tracy and Gavin and I, who are the three folks that are our Dryden House, have set a really ambitious publishing schedule for ourselves. We've really had a vote of confidence sort of at a meeting the other day that we feel like we're going to be able to support a good, healthy collection of authors and artists. And Gavin's work, you've all seen it. He just does fabulous work. We have a lot of confidence that we can make good-looking books with good content in them with Tracy and I's editing. And then Tracy's promotional magic is just, it's a lot of fun to see her work. She really understands the social networking and how to get onto blogs and so on and so forth. So I want to personally encourage folks who do want to work with an editor and with a publisher to give us a call, show us what you've got, let us see your content. We're excited. And we have an advantage. There's sort of a trap that people get into, and I hope this is true for everybody who works in Dryden. The big publishing houses get in the 51% trap. They are looking for the maximum profits, and if they can sell a book to 51% of the population, that book will get chosen over the book that would appeal to the 49% of the population. And what that means is that you continue to get Avenger movies long after everyone has seen every possible plot twist that you could put in an Avenger movie, because they will sell to 51% of the people. We're not trapped like that. The things that Eugene writes are interesting and twisty and nightmarish, and that's not a specifically niche market, but that's a set of people that will appeal to. Greta Vanderroel writes science fiction romance. That's not a 51%. That's something that's interesting and appeals to a niche of people. And we are all about that diversity, rather than saying, here's where we can sell the very most, let's find somebody who fits it. We look at people and go, dude, what you're doing kicks ass. Let's publish that and see who's interested. And so we invite creativity, we invite unique, we invite niche. We have some sort of hard limits, I think, that probably we don't even need to discuss because no one would ever submit us stuff like that. But we're an adventure. We're an experiment. Send it to us. We want to go, what the was that? I don't know, but it kicked ass. And on that vein, I want to say something to Dawn, and let everybody hear it. When we opened Nightmare, Dawn sent this comment that says, when are you going to open your dedicated sheep genre? And the deal is, Dawn, we'll open it when there's enough interest in it. If it just seems weird and twisty enough that 5 or 6 authors would go, dude, I'll send you a sheep story, we will open Dryden sheep. I don't know what kind of market. It's clearly a joke, but if enough people were having fun developing sheep-related stuff, we'd get a banner up there and we'd invite people. And you'll have to explain to me, Dawn, how you have a shared universe with sheep, but I think it could be very funny, sort of almost spoofing ourselves. And so just everybody hear me make a testament to how creative we're willing to get. I'm sure that somewhere out there there's a comic artist who's going, oh, dude, because the sheep universe, right, would be so funny because everybody has sheep jumping through their heads to count at night, and sheep are actually this, like, nightmare being. And all right, do it. If you can bring it, I'll do it. And that goes for everybody else out there with a crazy not 51% story idea. We've got genre out there for horror, we've got genre out there for steampunk, we've got genre out there for apocalypse, we've got genre out there for sci-fi, and we will make space for anything that doesn't fit in the space that we've got if somebody's behind it and if somebody believes in it and is willing to advocate for it and support it. We'll develop it. So, all right, I just wanted to blow the doors open because I think it could be just hysterical. Things get sort of faddish. People, once upon a time, back in the 70s, people bought millions of rocks with faces painted on them because they thought pet rocks were really funny. And if Dawn's sheep genre gets support behind it, we'll promote it because it's entirely possible that some significant portion of the population, or even insignificant portion, but still, interesting enough to keep it supported, will go, that's hysterical. They have a whole universe dedicated to sheep. I love it. I love the sheep universe, right? Let's do it.
You never know.
Whatever it is you're working on, we are the experiment. We're the place to come and test new material. We're the place to come and test new story styles, new story writing. We're a place for new authors to come and develop. We don't have the burden of the corporation over us. Our only obligation is that it's interesting enough, and I think that for Tracy and I, if we actually want to offer a contract, we sort of have to ask a question about, it takes a lot of hours to put a book into print.
Oh, yeah.
And so we need some quality of text. Come on, we need some quality of text and reasonable assumption of interest. Okay, just 1 minute. So we have some things that we need to do, to protect ourselves, but still the threshold is very low. We can do things because we're interested in them and because we love them, and absolutely we can support the things that you do even if we can't. So can't do them ourselves. So that is that. And I've been summoned away. We have excitement in our house today. I'm going to mute myself and wander off. I'm going to stop the broadcast, though, unless anybody has anything else essential for me.
I'm good.
You're good? Now this will stay live. Feel free to chat away, you three, and I don't know how long I'll be gone. Maybe a minute, maybe longer. But we are going to end the broadcast. That's Dryden. Below you'll find the links to the Google Docs, the Goodreads link for for Lorelei, and you'll find a link to the Facebook Nightmare page. All right. Thanks everybody. This is Joel. This is my hot pink bedroom. Thanks for participating in Dryden. Have a good evening.